Welcome to A Slob Comes Clean, the podcast. I'm Dana K. White. I blog over at aslobcomesclean.com. That's where I share my personal deslobification process. As I figure out ways to keep my own home under control, I share the truth about cleaning and organizing strategies that actually work in real life for real people who don't love cleaning and organizing. Thanks for joining me today. This is podcast number 309, and I think I'm going to call it Dailies and Routines and Such, or something like that. So this is a podcast that I recorded with one of my kindred spirits, and she has given me an update. So we talked about they're kind of in a unique situation with, temporariness, I believe, of where they were living, but they have settled in, and she let me know that the things that we talked about were really helpful. So I love hearing that, specifically the assigning tasks and getting the kids involved and doing the 5-minute pickups and things like that. So those are things that we talked about. Before we get into my conversation with Elizabeth, I wanted to make sure that if you are like me and the holidays get a little bit crazy and you're like, okay, so I've got big stuff planned for the actual holidays. Here in the US, we have the big one at the end of November and then another one at the end of December. And you're like, okay, I've got big stuff for that, but I just need to keep my family fed the rest of the days. I encourage you to check out the little mini course that I put together back in May called Make Dinner Happen. You can go to aslobcomesclean.com/make-dinner-happen. It is a 14-day plan that will have you cook all your ground beef on one day, all of your chicken breast on another day, and then use those in 14 different recipes so that you get used to and you get experience with using those pre-cooked meats. So I give you all my tips and everything for using them in a way that actually, tastes good and all throughout those videos that I, am cooking with you. Anyway, so that you can get used to that and then apply that to all different kinds of recipes that you already like. And it really does make life so much easier in the kitchen, especially during busy times, which is there ever not a busy time, but whatever. Anyway, so just want to make sure you knew about that. That's $16. That's Make Dinner Happen at aslobcomesclean.com/make-dinner-happen. And also don't forget that my 14 days to opening your front door to guests is on sale through the end of November with the code podcast. So I know many of y'all have already gotten that. You can go to aslobcomesclean.com/14. That's like 14. All right, here is my conversation with Elizabeth. Okay, Elizabeth, thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast and talk to me.
Yes, I'm glad we were finally able to get together.
I know it's been a lot of coordinating, and we're recording this as it's actually almost my summer break. So this will probably be several months before it comes out. But hey, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. And tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your unique life situation.
Yeah. So we, before COVID, I would have said we were quite unique. After COVID, not so much. But I have a 3-month-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And we, for the past about 5 years, have been working from home, homeschooling. So we spend a lot of time in our house. And then for right now, we are actually in the middle of a major international move. So we have moved out of the house that we lived in for the past 4 years, and we are currently living in a rental that is about 2/3 the size of our old home. Mm-hmm. And we are working on downsizing from that. Are going to be staying with family in about a week. And so we'll be doing that until we move out of the country.
So are you going to be taking home furnishings with you, or will you furnish something when you get there? Or will you be in a furnished situation, or do you know?
The houses all come furnished.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we've already done the task of getting rid of most of our furniture because we are in a furnished vacation rental right now. But it's still a little bit challenging because looking at everything of our whole entire life could potentially change. So thinking, what do we take with us? What do we use versus want to use? So it's been a lot of thought to that. And I'm still afraid I'm going to be leaning on the side of bringing too much, because things like my kids have their dance recital on Saturday. And I'm thinking, well, do I pack up her leotard and tights, even though I don't think she's going to be going to dance when we get there? And, I don't know, because I don't know that leotard and tights are available after we move. So just some fun little challenges like that.
I don't know where you're moving. I don't know your unique situation, but from personal experience, if it's a specialty item and it's very small like that, I would at least take one, just because, I lived in Thailand and I'm not tiny. And even my roommate, who was very, very small, had a hard time buying clothes, just because, we were shaped differently, and it just, anyway, so just something. I know here I am telling you to keep something, and I'm supposed to be the decluttering person, but if it's something that she loves to do, and you never know. And anyway, so who knows, but okay. All right, let's talk about what is, so you're in a unique situation, because are you storing things? Is there like a time of, we know we're going to be gone for 2 years, 5 years, or are you hoping to be gone forever?
Yeah, as of right now, this is a fairly permanent move. We're
Okay.
thinking it may end up being something along the lines of 5 years.
Okay.
Everything that we're storing, and I just put that in air quotes, has actually already gone. Last week we took it up to my mother-in-law's house. That being said, I keep finding little things, and I'm like, like I've got the hat that I put on my baby when she was first born, and I'm like, I don't want to get rid of that. Definitely don't need to take it with me. So I think I'm going to end up with a box of storage stuff at my mom's house too. But our storage, the quantity of things we have in storage are like 4 of those 18-gallon plastic bins. So,
Okay. So
it's not
it's, you're not just packing up an entire house worth of stuff that you would eventually come back to. It's literally maybe down to sentimental stuff, and that's it.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And part of that is because, it's funny because I normally wouldn't call a hurricane a blessing, but when we moved here, we live at the beach. And I had kept all of my baby stuff from my prior babies. And I was thinking, great, when we have our next kid, we'll be able to use them. Well, 2 years ago, a hurricane came through and all of my baby stuff molded. And it made me realize that trying to hold on to these things was entirely useless, and that other people could have actually gotten use and joy, and it could have been functional and less wasteful had I gotten rid of it. Which, like, I would have never thought of that before. I would have thought, oh my gosh, I already bought it once, I never want to have to buy it again. And that's made it really easy. Even right now with my new baby, I just like sold the swaddle that we were using like last week, because I was like, oh, she's kind of too big for this now. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just stick it on Facebook if it goes in a week. And that's one thing I learned from you, thank heavens. If it goes in a week, great. If not, I'm going to send it in donations. But like those little tips that I've learned from you, I feel like are getting me through so far, just because otherwise I would be a little bit lost and probably trying to hold on to more than I needed to. And I wouldn't know how to get rid of the things that I'm needing to get rid of now.
Wow. Well, that's a huge challenge that you guys are facing, but it sounds like you're doing really well. And I'm sure that living in a vacation rental at this point, I always find that such a perspective adjuster for me, because they just have the absolute basics. And every single time I live in that situation, I think, why do I have so much extra stuff at my house? So that's a good perspective adjustment for you as you go into this phase. Well, I'm excited for y'all doing that. So let's talk about some of the things that you have implemented in your home that have worked really well for you.
Yeah. So well, I guess if I could go back. So I think I've been listening to your podcast. I wrote it down the other day that it was 3+ years, but it's actually 5+ years.
Wow.
It's gotten me through like 2 moves so far. But I remember doing the dishes was the first thing to have like a major impact on me. And just thinking, for starters, I would look at my sink and think, oh, that's not a full load. Oh no, it was a full load. Yeah. And so just doing that every day. And then I've been able to like routinize, if that's even a word, that with my children. Sorry, little baby. You. But I've been able to routinize that with my children, so they know every morning now that it's their job to unload the dishwasher. And that really works the best if they're expecting it, which that only happens if I am. Sorry for all the baby noises.
That's fine.
All right. So that only so that only happens if I am regularly getting the dishwasher started and regularly doing that.
Yeah.
So that's been a big, big help. And then, so now the thing that's really helping me the biggest most recently is take it there now. And I mean, it's one of the things that's interesting is, so our house was put on the market like last fall. So it was like 6 months. We were renters before, so we really didn't have any control over it. But surviving showings, it made such a big, big difference thinking, okay, well, if I'm touching this right now, where do I put it? Where do I go? And it helped me really get through that time period in something that would have been like completely overwhelming to me
So
otherwise.
even just, not even just in the decluttering process, but just in the everyday maintaining process, just having that mentality of take it there now.
Yes. Yes.
That's great.
It's been huge.
Yeah. I think it's for me, it's like I had to force myself to do that in the decluttering process. And the more that I do that, the more I see opportunities to do that in everything, to just go, but if I get this done now, it's over, it's done. Even if it's something as small as walking to the other side of the room to put it in its home instead of just dropping it, whatever. But
Exactly.
well, that's great. Good. I'm glad I like hearing how that plays out in your life. That's great. So talk to me about something that you would like to brainstorm together.
So the first question I have, well, let me kind of set up the stage of what my day is like. So I was thinking about, there was one day a couple weeks ago where I woke up at like 4 a.m. and my thought was, I'm going to get the whole house picked up, as people with brains like us tend to do, because it seems like a good idea at the time, right? So I got the whole house picked up. We went, and I think we went and picked strawberries, and then we took the kids, or my daughter had gymnastics. And by the time we got home, it was like 8 p.m. And we struggle to feed everybody, and then we're so exhausted that so many nights dinner just does not get put away. And especially, it's always been one of my challenges with the baby too, when they start getting fussy in the evenings. And I feel like this is something I should be able to plan for, because I feel like my babies at least get fussy every evening around dinner time. But so, I mean, it was one of those days that when we went to go pick strawberries, the house was really, really great. And then by the time the first person walked through the house, the floors already looked like they were a huge mess, and things ended up being just a disaster by the time we went to bed. So it was like no progress ended up being made. And so I think, that's one of the big things, is I find that we end up just like rushing to bed, and in the evening, no matter how great things were during the day, it's a complete disaster again.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of that is just the reality of, I'm the same way. I always had a bedtime for my kids, and bedtime was so important to me that it was more important than cleaning up the kitchen to me. And I don't regret that. Like, I think, so I get that idea of, it's just kind of like, I'm done. Like, it either I just can't, or a lot of times for me, it just wouldn't even occur to me that in the midst of, let's get everybody to bed, let's do all this last evening stuff, that the kitchen just wasn't part of that. So are you talking about, you mentioned the kitchen, but you also just, is it the overall everything that feels that way?
I kind of think it is the overall everything, just because.
Just the day's worth of mess.
Exactly. Like, we can spend time together, especially with homeschooling the kids in the morning, and get everything in a pretty good place, but it just kind of falls apart all throughout the day.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing to remind yourself is that that's great that it's better in the morning. Like, so how does it go from being at a state that frustrates you in the evening to everything was good before we left to go pick strawberries? Like, what happened in between there to get the house back under control?
So, I mean, sometimes we're really, really good at having routines where every morning we're getting stuff picked up. A lot of times I actually have Alexa set reminders before we need to leave for our like weekly appointments, for our 5-minute pickups. And it's really great because the kids don't fight with Alexa.
That's great.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I love it. That's a great idea.
But I think part of it is I do work part-time from home. So there are times when I've got my kids either playing or like working on their own schoolwork, and I'm in a different room from them taking a call. And I wish I could say they're trained really great to pick up their stuff, but they're just not. I probably have not been the best example to them when it comes to that.
I completely understand. Yeah.
So a lot of times they won't pick up their stuff. And then sometimes we have to run somewhere as soon as my call's over. Or sometimes like I'll be working on a project and I'll have, everything out. And then suddenly the baby wakes up from her nap and she's crying. And then I go do that and I forget to pick up the project later. So
well, I think that the Alexa timers are working really well. So keep going with that. And remind yourself too. Your little one is 3 months old. And so, I know you said you've been listening for 5 years. So, this is the hardest time right now, like where everything is completely unpredictable because she's still getting into her, figuring out how the world works and all that kind of stuff. So, but at the same time, the 5-minute pickups, maybe there needs to be like in those moments where you start to feel the, kind of like you've associated the take it there now and the impact that has. See if you can do some spontaneous 5-minute pickups where you are in their room and they may not be at the greatest time. The reality is if you've got this, and this, and then we're gone, but looking for additional times to do 5-minute pickups with you in the room with them. Because I know that's one of the things you had said there, but you also said in your notes it was like on their own, they have a hard time. And I think that's the age, I think that's just the reality of that stage, is they need to be reminded. And then the older that they get, the good news is they do get better at it. They still will throw all of their random stuff into their sister's room sometimes. But we've mostly stopped that and they're basically adults now, but anyway. But yeah, like just adding some in at spontaneous times, like seeing if, okay, in the moment of frustration, if I can make my reaction to that be a 5-minute pickup. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so instead of it being a scheduled time, because that's what it sounds like is so hard is the evenings. It's like the mornings are scheduled and the mornings are routined. And so the routines work pretty well in the mornings because, you can put those things in there. You can predict that when Alexa says 5 minutes, you're actually going to be able to stop for 5 minutes, as opposed to the evenings, it feels like you're going full blast, and it really, it comes down to that awkward pause thing. Just to try to make up for, these things that, there are a lot of people listening who are like, if my house, and I know it's always different when you're just hearing what ifs versus reality that you're experiencing. They're like, oh, if my house was perfect in the morning, how great would that be? But it's like, no, you want to relax in the evening and know that it's also, picked up.
It's one of those things too, that we get the house great but my husband never sees that. And my husband's the one in the family who really, really likes things neat. And I know in like some of the recent podcast episodes over the past couple of months, people have talked about how like the really neat spouse just feels like a weight is lifted and feels like they can breathe. And that's how he is. But he never gets to see the house that way because by the time he comes home in the evening, everything's a disaster again.
Right. Well, and so that can be something that, maybe even if he likes that, he probably likes also making it happen, but it can feel overwhelming. So doing a 5-minute pickup when he's home, so that I think sometimes with involving him in that, even if it's not necessarily, okay, you're going to help us now, but instead, okay, guys, we're going to do this before dinner or after dinner, or, hey, I'm throwing dinner together. Do you mind doing a 5-minute pickup with the kids? They know what to do, but they need you there to help. The other thing that can happen with that is he can see that, yes, it does get better, but then life makes it go back. And that's the reality of a house with kids in it, with anybody in it. And so, doing that as a family, looking for awkward pauses to do that in the evening, because you already know the 5-minute pickups are pretty magical, right?
Yeah.
Like they make a huge difference.
I can get the kids going, but yeah, they do.
Yeah. But a lot of times as a mom, especially when kids are your kids' age, your job for the 5 minutes is to direct, like that is the number one thing that you're doing, as opposed to getting to go and do something else. As they get older, you can, but, also assigning them, this is what you're going to do during this 5 minutes. This is what you're going to do during this 5 minutes. That's all fine too. But, so that they can see the impact of it, but also the lack of lasting impact so that there's not an assumption that it's always this way. Do you know what I mean?
Right. They learned like the value of the work that they're putting in.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, trying to find some other times for that. And as far as like being so exhausted after dinner, like I completely understand that. You know, it's okay to have a different time of day when your dishes are done. Like finding the time that works the best for you. And so instead of feeling like a failure because we didn't get everything done before we went to bed, like I'm never one who's going to say, you got to have it all done before you get to bed. Like you just have to have it done at some point during the day so that it doesn't build up. And for me, knowing that, do you have a dishwasher?
We do.
Okay. So running the dishwasher, that's my thing. I'm like, even if I can't, or I just am not gonna get everything actually wiped down and blah, blah, blah. If I will just run the dishwasher, I don't end up in the pile up, and it's kind of like lowering those expectations in order to keep from getting so overwhelmed or feeling like a failure that then stops you from doing anything. I don't know. Like identify, okay, we're in a phase right now. What's an even more bare minimum that I can give myself permission to do? I don't know. Is that helpful?
It is. It is. And I think, like, honestly, even hearing you say, like, it's okay, you're doing it once a day and you are getting it done is really helpful, because we get the dishes run every day. That's something that we've picked up that's really did make a big difference from the way it was before. And a lot of times it's just there's stuff left on the table. And so we pick it up the next morning, and by lunchtime, everything's picked up again. And then, I mean, I say everything's picked up as I'm surrounded by piles of laundry that need to be put away. I've been here all week, but
we all understand.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think the 5-minute pickups probably are key. And I think it's probably key because one of the second questions I had that I wanted to talk about was kind of keeping my sanity while trying to get the dailies done. Because sometimes I feel like when we had showings and stuff, in order to keep things showing ready, which is not really necessarily the way that we want our daily life, but in order to keep things showing ready, I pretty much was freaking out if my kids would touch a toy, and I'd be like, don't touch your toys, can't use those. But I think even doing like more 5-minute pickups probably will, and more spontaneous 5-minute pickups will help with that, kind of like adding them in throughout all of the transition times, even the, hey, we're about to eat, kids, go pick up some things now for 5 minutes while I'm getting stuff on the table, or before I download this extra app for you, why don't you pick up
really? Or especially when kids are pulling things out to play with them. And again, this is where I go with the spontaneous so that you don't feel like a failure if you don't do it every time. But like ideally it's okay, I've been playing with Hot Wheels cars and I have everything out for that. But now I feel like playing with Polly Pockets, or I don't even know what stuff is anymore, but you know what I mean? But like, now I feel like playing with this. And so I'm going to get all of that stuff pulled out. Oh, wait, let's do a 5-minute pickup. Let's do a 5-minute pickup to put your Hot Wheels stuff away so that then it doesn't pile. It's kind of like that dishes thing. It's like toy math of, if I will just put away this stuff, or if I'll do a 5-minute pickup, which might end up being a 2-minute pickup, but because they already know the language 5-minute pickup, then even though what you're really doing is cleaning up one thing of toys before you get out another, you can use the language of 5-minute pickup and be like, oh, that one only took 2 minutes. That's great. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and play the next thing, so that can start to be the trigger as often as you think about it. And even if you don't think about it for a day, if you do it once the next day, it's better off than it would be otherwise, And so that's why I'm always trying to be careful of being like, oh, well, every time your kids do this. I'm like, well, but then when you miss it, which is what I would do, and doesn't even occur to you to do that, then you're like, oh, great. Well, that doesn't work for me. No. Just do a pickup when you think of it, and look for opportunities to start thinking of doing 5-minute pickups during those times, those transition times where they're naturally transitioning to get another kind of toy out. Oh, let's do a 5-minute pickup, everybody, and that will annoy them, and they will not like for you to stop their momentum, but eventually they may, if it annoys them enough, then they'll go ahead and put stuff up before they get the next one out. So they don't have to have you telling them to do that. I mean, that's life,
Absolutely.
Okay. What else would you like to talk about? I've
Um,
solved all your problems, right, so far?
almost, yeah.
Uh,
um, so the third thing was, and I know you've talked about this a bit, but it's decluttering the tricky stuff. So when we moved here, we did like a really big declutter with most of everything. And what I have left now are some of the trickier things. So, like, I also did a study abroad in college, and I've got a bin of things that I was originally thinking of putting in a scrapbook, but it's things like brochures from museums that we visited, or photographs, or like there are some things, and I know one of the pieces of advice that you've said is like if you use it in your house, great. But there are some things that I just cannot get rid of that are like schoolwork that I did in elementary school, like a project I put together about my family. I put together like a slideshow and printed it out about,
oh, fun.
these are really important things. And my mom kept it. But, things like that that aren't useful,
Yeah.
but they're like, I'm not going to get rid of like the little timeline of my life that I made in fifth grade on poster board, but it's like so cute, and my kids would actually totally like to see it today. And I mean, for right now, those things I think are going to like live at my mom's house, but I would like to kind of pare down what I have. I actually have a trophy that my city won for a parade entry one year, which that hopefully I can like box up and mail back to them, because truthfully I don't need to keep that. Things like that is, I mean,
Yeah.
just kind of a what do you do with it aside from just keep it in a box somewhere.
Well, I mean, especially because of your current situation, I don't know that you have really any other option than to keep it in a box somewhere. So then the key is to say, okay, mom, and how much space do you have for me to put a box in your house? Like that's not going to make her life harder to live. You know what I mean? Like either something that she has to worry about or whatever, like what size of a box is it that we have? And then that box determines what you can keep, which means you put your favorite stuff in there first, which means that you might have to make the choice between the brochures from the museums and the trophy or and the project. The other thing too is you just said that your kids would love to see that. So let them see it. Like go ahead and enjoy that, because sometimes after you enjoy it, then it looks a little bit different to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying it's going to, but sometimes it's like, oh, my kids loved this part of that. I could just save this part. I don't necessarily have to also have the diorama. I don't know if that's what you had, but you know what I mean? Like, it's this idea of so many times when we think things are going to be sentimental, they grow inside of our minds. And so then just going ahead, giving yourself permission to look through it without making a decision yet, because you guys are still, months out from actually having to leave and having to store it somewhere. Look through it now, because you may find that there is stuff in there that is not as sentimental, or that you go, oh, well, yeah, when I'm going to have to make a decision someday, this is going to be a definite. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. So then it's already reduced. And then when it does come down to it, just embrace that container, embrace the reality of my mom has a guest room closet that it's not going to, that she is letting me use for a tub or two. And this is not going to make her life harder. I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And so I'm going to go ahead and that's going to determine the size of container that I can use. And now that container is going to determine the reality of what I can keep. And then you put your favorite things in there first, which is easier to do if you've gone through them and just looked at them without any kind of obligation or responsibility 2 months ago. Like they're going to look different to you when you go through them again in 2 months to then actually make those decisions and put it down into the container.
Sounds good.
Did that solve all your problems? I keep asking that.
No. I think so. And it's, as you know, I think some of it too sometimes is just sitting down and doing it in the first place, right?
Which I think that's where the giving yourself permission to look through it without feeling guilty that you're not taking an action right now. Because the problem is when you feel like there are going to be actions that are going to have to be taken. I may have to box up a trophy and mail it somewhere. Like I will avoid looking in a huge box because I know there's one thing in there that I'm going to feel like I need to go to the post office over. Like I will completely avoid that box for the sake of this one little thing, that I know is going to be a big job that I have to do someday. So saying for now, I'm just going to look through it with no obligation. Then you have it's easier for you to start adjusting how you think about things, letting it be less overwhelming. And then you may make some decisions like that is not worth my time. I have a 3-month-old and I have a lot going on, and nobody's really going to know that I never sent that in because they're probably not going to listen to Dana's podcast. And so, I'm just going to get rid of it or whatever, like get rid of some of that guilt. Cause a lot of it is just that guilt weighing on you of all the things that probably this is going to represent that you need to put on your to-do list.
Yeah, I've got one project like that. One year I was going to make a felt advent calendar for my kids, and I'm looking at it right now, and it's the middle of summer. So they don't cost a whole lot right now because everyone's trying to clearance them. I'm like, well, I could buy one or I could finish this one. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I may just buy it and throw out the one that I started because I've got the calendar, but no figurines.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that it's hard to let those kinds of things go, but it's also like such a relief. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid, and then you do it and you just go, oh, that's not weighing on me anymore. And I wasn't necessarily consciously thinking about it all the time, but it was weighing on me.
Yep. I've got a couple of projects like that.
Oh, yes. I understand. Totally understand. So is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I think that's pretty much everything. The only other thing would just be sharing, because I feel like it's rare in life that you literally look at everything you own at one time and go, do I really want to keep this and do I not? And so many of the little things I was putting off, like my daughter does gymnastics, and gymnastics leotards are kind of expensive. And so there's actually a pretty good used gymnastics leotard market out there. And I had kept a box of her old gymnastic leotards going, one day I'll sell these. Can I tell you how easy it actually was to sell them once I stuck them, once I took a picture of them and put them online? They all went within 2 weeks. I save all of my poly mailers. It's actually easier and cheaper to mail them out than I expected. So many of these projects that had felt like, oh my gosh, can I really do that? It was really a matter of just kind of taking that first step and, going with it. And if we had even met 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I have these leotards and I've been saying for years that I want to sell them. And it would have seemed like so much and so impossible. And it's been kind of amazing in a situation where I actually have to sit down and go through and look at this stuff, that it's actually been easier than I expected it was going to be to deal with a lot of them.
I think what you're saying has a lot of value because so many times the issue is we build it up in our heads of how much hassle or difficulty something is going to cause that makes us then put off trying or put off doing it. So yeah, I appreciate that perspective a lot. In your kind of being forced to do it, you've realized, oh, I should have done this a long time ago. Yeah, I think that's great. That's great to know. And that is my number one piece of advice. If you are stuck because you're sure something's worth money, sell one just to see what the process is like, because I can remember when I did eBay, yes, gymnastics outfits, that was one of the things that I knew if I could find those for 50 cents at a garage sale, I could sell them, for pretty good turnaround. But I didn't know that until I tried it. No, I don't recommend you going and buying them and selling them. But I am saying I didn't know until I tried. If you're thinking something, if you can't get rid of it because you think it's worth money, give it a try and just see, because
Well, and that even came to true. So we had a double stroller and I was sitting here thinking, oh, this is great. We'll be able to sell it for $50. It'd go so fast because they're worth so much more than that. Well, I listed it for sale and it didn't sell. And I lowered the price. It didn't sell. And I lowered the price. And I eventually just donated it because I know in the past you've said, give yourself a time frame. Mm-hmm. And having the action plan was so helpful because when it didn't sell in the time frame that I was looking for too, I was like, okay, well, I want to get this out because I don't need it anymore. My older kids can't fit in a stroller now.
And you tried. And so there's no regret. I mean, it might be irritating that you didn't get any money like you thought you would, but there's no regret, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's good. Well, tell me what you love about being a kindred spirit.
So I just love having a group of people who understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so great having people who understand the perspective, and especially in some ways it's been really helpful too in conversations with my husband, because he doesn't understand, because this is so not his mindset at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really, really great to kind of be at a group of people knowing that we're all normal people working on this area of our lives, and that, you know, it's not such an unusual experience in the first place.
Yeah. It is very nice to know that we're not alone. Definitely, for sure. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you taking this time. I know that you are in such a fun, fleeting, but also crazy time of life with a newborn. So it's been really fun to talk to you. And I never know how to end. I'm just saying, like, I feel like the endings are always so like, okay, all right. I need to come up with like a tagline or something where I'm like, and there you go forth and be cleaner. I don't know.
And deslobify.
yeah. Go deslobify. Anyway, but I really do. I appreciate you coming on. It's been really fun getting to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for putting up with my little one trying to talk all the whole time.
My goodness. I love baby noises. So no, I'm happy she was with us. Okay. Did you love my conversation with Elizabeth? I thought it was great. Like, I have so much fun doing these calls with y'all. So if you are interested in being a part of our Kindred Spirits group, if you're interested in being a patron of the show, that's who gets to apply to do these calls. You can go to Patreon, patreon.com/A Slob Comes Clean, and find out how to become a patron of the show. All right. I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.